Hello and welcome to the We Are Worthy Summit. My name is Katherine Baldwin and I'll be hosting this workshop, which is called Accepting the Unacceptable. So a little bit about me. I am a coach, a writer and a speaker. I coach people around self-worth, self-esteem, forming healthy and loving relationships, and around changing their lives so that they can have a more fulfilled, contented life. I am the author of How to Fall in Love, a 10-step journey to the heart, which charts my journey from being single and unhappy and childless to being in love, engaged, living by the sea, doing work that I love, and still being childless. So it talks about my journey around motherhood. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And I also run workshops and I run retreats. So accepting the unacceptable. Acceptance is the answer to all our problems, but acceptance isn't easy to find. Acceptance brings peace. It brings peace of mind, it brings peace in our hearts, but it isn't always easy. I know that myself. Accepting what is and letting go of what if feels like my biggest challenge in life. It feels like my mission, and it feels like something that I want to help other people with, which is why I am hosting this workshop. So I'm just going to look at my notes. I don't have slides today because I find that switching between slides and speaking complicates things, and I want to keep them simple. So one aspect of acceptance, I think, the first thing I'm going to talk about is forgiveness. So when we don't have the lives that we always wanted for ourselves, and in this case, when we don't have children and we always wanted children, I believe that self-forgiveness is primary. I believe that it's something we need to work on. And before I continue on this question of forgiveness, I just want to say that I appreciate that all of you who are watching this video will be at different stages. You will have had different journeys. You will have had different experiences, just as I have had a different experience. So my story is very different to yours. I cannot understand your grief. I can maybe relate to it. I can maybe relate to your journey, and you can relate to parts of mine. But I don't speak for everybody's journey. I don't speak for everybody's grief, and I don't claim to be able to help everybody. So I hope that some of the things I speak about you can relate to. I hope that they can be helpful to you. Take what you like and leave the rest. If you don't find this useful, then there are lots of other speakers on the We Are Worthy Summit who I'm sure will bring you hope and peace. So with that in mind, acknowledging that we are all different, we all have different journeys, just want to talk about the aspect of self-forgiveness. So particularly if we are high-achieving women or women who have always been quite successful in other areas of their life, and I appreciate there are men always also watching this video. So whether we are men or women who have achieved a lot, made life happen in that way that we were told to when we were children. So we have studied hard, gone to university, got a job, got a house, made ourselves feel financially secure. And then it comes to this thing about, okay, maybe we need to find a partner first, or maybe we find a partner and then we want to have a family. And for some reason, or because this is life and this is how it works, those things don't come easy to us. Perhaps finding a partner doesn't come easy to us, and perhaps having children doesn't come easy and doesn't happen at all. So it's really difficult to accept that we can't change this. We can't just work harder at this. We can't just do what we've done in the rest of our lives and really apply ourselves. It's really difficult to make this happen. And that can be really frustrating, and we can blame ourselves. We can blame ourselves that we couldn't make this happen, that we couldn't just study harder, try harder. And we start looking back through our lives, and we look at these crossroads in our lives, and we start to blame ourselves. So let me give you an example. I studied really hard at school. I studied really hard at university. I got a good degree. I went traveling around the world. There are a number of moments in my life where I chose to continue with my journey of adventure, to continue with my career, to walk away from a relationship, to stay independent, to stay single. And I'm not saying they were the wrong choices at the time. For example, I walked away from a relationship in which I might have had children, but ultimately it wasn't a healthy relationship. We weren't meant to be together. In fact, he is now with his husband, and I am with my fiance. So we weren't meant to be together. But I can blame myself for those choices that I made. I can blame myself for, in my early 30s, coming back to London and working really hard at my career. So I can blame myself. Why didn't I get off the career ladder? Why didn't I focus on relationship? Why didn't I explore? Why didn't I start my therapy sooner? Why didn't I start to understand sooner why I wasn't able to have a healthy and loving relationship? So whatever your story, maybe you blame yourself that the IVF didn't work. Maybe you blame yourself that you didn't start sooner. Maybe you might blame yourself. Have a think. Have a think right now. Do I blame myself? Do I blame myself for where I am today in my life? Do I say to myself, you could have done more? You could have tried harder. You could have made things happen. Do those words sound familiar? And do they sound loving? Would you say those words to your best friend? To someone you really cared about? If you can relate to that harsh, punishing voice, like me, you will need to do some self-forgiveness. You will need to find a way to find peace with the choices that you made throughout your life. And one of the ways that I have done this is by realizing that it wasn't my fault, that I made the choices I made with my best intentions at the time and with the tools that I had at the time. And I made those choices with the tools that I had at the time because I didn't have better tools, because because I'll call it the dysfunction in my family goes back a long time, because I didn't understand how to have a healthy relationship. I didn't learn that until I was 43, which is then quite old to start looking at having a family. I didn't make those choices because I understood this later, I had always been ambivalent about children, about having babies, about motherhood, because my parents related to me ambivalently. They did the best they had with the tools that they had at the time. But I experienced ambivalent love from my caregivers. So I had an ambivalent attitude towards having children. Part of me was always terrified of the prospect. Part of me wanted it. Part of me ran away from it. Part of me wanted it. So understanding that I did the best that I could with the tools that I had and with the choices I made were the best choices that I could make at that time. So one aspect of forgiveness for me is to understand that it wasn't my fault. It's about forgiving myself. It's about accepting my story. So I wonder if you could say that with me. Maybe close your eyes. Maybe pause this video so that you can write it down and speak it. But say, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. I forgive you. I forgive you, Katherine. You can say your name after that statement. It wasn't my fault. The next thing is there somebody that you need to forgive other than yourself? So this might be your parents, because, for example, in my case, I don't feel that they equipped me sufficiently to be able to have a healthy and loving relationship, or to parent, or even to want to parent. So I have to forgive my parents. I do forgive my parents. They weren't at fault. They did the best that they could with the tools that they had at their disposal. And, you know, the stuff, the baggage goes back generations. So I forgive my parents. So as well as myself, I forgive my parents. Maybe you, in your case, it's about forgiving science, clinics, if you've tried IVF or other ways of conceiving. Maybe it's about forgiving society or feminism. Maybe you feel that society or feminism sent you off on a path that meant that you woke up at 41 like me and went, oh my goodness, how on earth did I end up here? No partner, no children, great career, but how on earth did I end up here? Maybe it's about forgiving your partner, so your wife or your husband or your girlfriend or your boyfriend. Maybe deep down there's somewhere in there's some resentment towards them, there's some blame. It would only be natural. It would be natural. So forgive yourself for having those feelings, and then forgive them. How do we forgive them? One of my tools of forgiveness is to wish for those people who I'm forgiving, to wish them all the wonderful things that I would like for myself. To pray for them, or if you don't pray, to wish for them all those wonderful things that you would like for yourself. To grieve the losses, to forgive yourself for having those feelings, to see that they did the best that they could with the tools that they were given. To see that we've all done the best that we could, that this is our life, that this is our path. So forgiveness, I think, is a really big topic. Now, as I'm speaking about forgiveness and forgiving yourself, I wonder if any anger comes up, if any blame comes up, and again, that would be entirely natural. So I know a lot about anger, but I didn't think that I did. I remember when my first therapist said to me, you have a lot of anger. I thought she was joking. I felt like I'd never experienced anger in my life, and I didn't have any. The truth is that I turned my anger inwards. I turned it in towards myself. So from a very young age, I began first to starve myself, and then I began binge eating. So binge eating is anger turned inwards. Starvation is anger turned inwards. It is self-harming. So that's where I sent my anger inwards. And when I stopped binge eating and stopped, halted my eating disorder, I had to find a way to express my anger in healthier ways. So I first had to get in touch with my anger, had to feel my anger, had to feel my feelings. So I do that through sitting still, through meditation, pausing, feeling my feelings. I write, I get out a massive piece of blank paper and I scribble and I write, and I write no-send letters to the people that I'm angry with. I write no-send letters to myself. I write down my resentments and my anger, and I let the pen flow and I write freely. So writing really helps. Meditation helps, because what happens when I sit still, when I meditate, is that I access my feelings, I often end up feeling angry or crying. I allow my feelings to come out. A lot of people today, and this is definitely my story, we're so busy, we run around like crazy, we don't allow time to sit still and to feel. So allow your anger, allow yourself to feel your anger. You can talk about it. So talk about it with friends, talk about it with coaches, talk about it with counselors and therapists if you are able to do that. And write, yeah. So anger is one of the stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So anger is a necessary part of the grieving process. So don't run away from it, embrace it, see it as part of your process. It's important to allow that out. And as I'm talking about grief, grieving is one of the ways we begin to accept the unacceptable. We grieve the life that we thought we were going to have. We grieve the losses of our past. For some of us, that will be just the dream of motherhood or fatherhood. For many of us, it will be much bigger than that. So for me, I have had to grieve so many losses of my past, from my past. So I've had to grieve the fact that the family I grew up in wasn't the happy family that I wanted it to be. It wasn't the mum and dad together bringing up their 2 kids. It didn't look like that. It was a broken family. It was, as I said, felt like there was ambivalent love coming my way because my parents struggled with their own feelings because of the parenting that they had received going back generations and generations. So that I didn't have the life that I wanted as a child. And when we don't have the lives that we want as children, we create a fantasy. We're susceptible to fantasy. So there's this imagined fantasy life that we could have that would make everything feel better, would make all the pain go away. So I was very susceptible to fantasy, to fantasizing about this perfect life. In my eyes, the perfect life was me, married, 2 children, wonderful career. And I've had to let that go. I've had to grieve the fact that that didn't happen. And I've had to grieve all those other losses. I've had to grieve the fact that I spent I spent from the age of 9, 10 to my early 30s self-harming with an eating disorder, with binge drinking, with compulsive work, with disastrous relationships, with self-harming relationships with people who couldn't meet my needs. I've had to grieve the fact that I gave my all to my work, to a job that ultimately was making me feel burnt out, miserable, and depressed. I've had to grieve the fact that it took me until 43 to work through all my issues around relationships and to be able to fall in love. I've had to grieve the fact that by the time I fell in love, I was 43, that I had felt in my late 30s and early 40s desperate to have children, desperate to have a baby. By 43, I was more in tune with my ambivalence, with my uncertainty, and I chose a partner who didn't want children. I left him a number of times because he didn't want children, and I thought I did. I went back to him because ultimately I decided that I wanted a partner, a lifelong partner, and to be in love, and I loved him. And that I actually felt ambivalently about children. That doesn't mean that I don't really struggle often being around mothers, that I don't really struggle often being around pregnant women, that I don't sometimes feel that my life is less important, less worthy, less complete, less fulfilled. I still feel those feelings, and I have to allow them to come, and I have to feel them. I can't just wish them away and say, I'm no longer going to feel that, I'm entirely resolved. That is not my truth. I'm not a black and white person. I'm a shades of grey person. So some days I'll be great, some days I'll struggle. That is my story. That's my journey. But grieving the losses is really important. Grieving the fact that this life that I have isn't the one I dreamt of. That it's taken me this long to do the work that I truly love. So I grieve the losses from my past. That is a really important element of the process of coming to accept the unacceptable. So another element I believe that's important is to find acceptance of the fact that this is my path. Now that is easier said than done. To appreciate that this is my path. And as I said at the beginning, we all have different stories and different journeys. So I don't have the experience of 10 rounds of IVF that didn't work. I don't have the experience of trying to adopt and failing. I don't have the experience of miscarrying. So we all have different experiences. I have the experience of desperately wanting a baby in my late 30s and early 40s, being single at the time, exploring whether I should have a baby on my own through IVF, whether I should freeze my eggs, whether I should do egg donor, all those choices. I explored that. I wrote about it. I researched a book on it, a book which I haven't published yet. So that was my journey. And then I resolved that I didn't want a baby on my own, but actually that I really wanted a lifelong partnership. And then I had to understand why it had taken me so long to fall in love. And I had to let go of a lot of dysfunctional behaviors in relationships, understand my fear of commitment, fall in love. And then fall in love at 43, part of me always hoping that I would get pregnant, part of me scared. And now at 47, being engaged to be married to a man who I love, not having children, and coming to terms with the fact that this is my path. Now, I don't say that lightly because it isn't easy, as I've said, but what are the benefits of this path to me and to others? I think that I would have really struggled, and I would struggle today if the miracle baby thing happened to me, that I would struggle today with the exhaustion, with the having to give everything to somebody else, with the responsibility of this creature, this baby, being entirely dependent on me. I think I would struggle with the fact that I have finally found my heart's work, my passion, that I am doing what I think I was meant to do, that I am often loving it, even though I find it a struggle sometimes. I think I would struggle to let go of that for a while. And I know the benefits that would come. In fact, I don't know them because I don't have children. So I know that there are benefits because I see it in the families around me. But I know the benefits are there, but I haven't experienced them. I only know that I think I would struggle. And yeah, I think I would struggle with, also with the age that I'm at now, I would struggle with that. And so I have to find a way to accept that there are huge benefits to this path that I am on. Benefits to me in terms of I can find fulfillment through my creativity, through my work, that I can have the joy of having a lifelong, hopefully a lifelong for the rest of my life, partnership. Because I am pretty sure that if I'd have had children when I was younger, when I was not resolved in myself, when I hadn't recovered from my eating disorder and other dysfunctional behaviors, I'm pretty sure that my relationship would have broken down and I might have been a single mum like my mum. So I might have repeated my past. I'm pretty sure that that would have happened, maybe not. But I have the benefits of this relationship. I can grow in my relationship. I can heal in my relationship. But also on this path that I'm on, I can bring huge benefits to so many people, so many more than the couple of children that I might have been bringing up. And I know there are people out there who get to do both. I know there are people out there who get to do this wonderful work and benefit others and have children. But we don't see what goes on behind the scenes, and we don't see what goes on inside their heads. And we're all different. Some of us are more able than others to juggle all those balls, to keep all those plates spinning, and to feel contented and peaceful and happy, and able to give love to children and to give love to the rest of the world. Some people are able to do that. I'm not sure I would have been, to be honest. So I have to find consolation in the fact, not consolation, because that sounds like a consolation prize, joy and fulfillment in the fact that the work that I'm doing and the writing that I want to do and the next books that I want to write and the coaching and the retreats and the workshops and this video, that I can bring benefits to others, that I can bring healing, that I can bring joy. So I am trying to accept that this is my path. When I run along the beach down here in Dorset, when I run along the beach in the morning and I watch the sun on the sea, and I'm hoping to get a dog soon, and I know that will bring me a lot of joy. But when I run along the beach and I feel free, and I cycle with my partner and I feel free, when we travel, when we go paddleboarding, and I know that you can do all those things with children, and some people are, and it looks amazing. But I have to try and accept that my path is to do this with my partner, to do it on my own, and to find joy, to find real joy. So trying to accept the path that we are on. So maybe at this point, you could maybe pause the video, take out a pen and paper, or come back to this afterwards, and just write down, this is the path I am on. What benefits does it bring to me? And what benefits does it bring to others, to a much wider community than the family that you might have had? What benefits does it bring to me, and what does it bring to others? And I know it's difficult to put out of one's head the fact that we might have been able to have it all. We might have been able to have it all. And of course, that is one of the myths, but sometimes it looks like some people are having it all, that they get to do all the wonderful, fulfilling work and to have the relationship and to have the children. But as I say, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We don't know what goes on in our heads, and we don't know if that could have been our path. So we all know, this is coming on to my next point now, gratitude. So once you've done the exercise around the benefits of this path, if you can bring yourself to do that, I'd like to talk about gratitude. So gratitude is one of those things that a lot of coaches and speakers will have told you about. You're probably sick of hearing it, about spending some time writing a gratitude list, or feeling grateful, or writing, what am I grateful for today? I share it. I've got a free Facebook group called Being Real, Becoming Whole, and I often share on a Thursday, my Thankful Thursday gratitude list, and encourage others to do the same. But I know there is research around how gratitude can help change our mindset. It can put us in a better place. It can uplift us. It can, change our mindset. And I know it's not easy, but there are times, for example, in this year, 2018, as I say, I go to the beach a lot. I run. Sometimes that running is a time for me to feel my feelings, to feel my anger, to cry, to feel my grief. Sometimes I can take that moment and I can feel gratitude for the fact that my legs work, that I can feel my muscles, that I can run, that I'm still running. I began running as a child. I ran like crazy to try and lose weight when I was in the throes of my eating disorder. I stopped running when I got healthy from my eating disorder. And now I'm running again because I love it. It gives me freedom, and I'm not doing it to lose weight. So when I'm running, I can feel grateful for my legs, for the fact that they work for my heart, for the sea, for the scenery. I can feel grateful for my courage because I made this happen. I moved out of my flat in London to the seaside. I get to run on the beach every day. And I find this helpful, and I wonder if you will too. And I don't in any way mean this to be insensitive or flippant, but I find it helpful to be grateful that I am alive, because I know that tragedy has happened to people around me this year, and I know that you know people who have suffered tragedy, and I know that you will have suffered too, that we all have our own personal tragedies. I have mine. But I lost two friends this year in 2018 to cancer. One who was a year older than me, and one who was in her early 50s. Friends with a lot to live for. And when I am wanting to rail against the fact that my life isn't as I wanted it to be, that it hasn't turned out as I wanted it to turn out, when I feel resentful, I try to find gratitude, because I'm not ill, I'm not unwell. My life hasn't turned out the way I thought it would do, but my friends' lives definitely didn't turn out the way they thought their lives would turn out. And their loved ones and their families, they look at their lives didn't turn out the way they thought they were going to turn out, because they lost somebody they really loved. So I know it's not easy to feel gratitude, and I absolutely accept that we've all had our own personal tragedies, but it helps me when I get into that place where it doesn't feel good enough, where I feel like there's something missing. I try to remind myself that I am here, that I have a good, I hope, many years ahead, where I can use my mind, my creativity, my body, when I can be in a loving relationship, when I can enjoy the beach. I hope that I have many years ahead for that. So gratitude. You could pause this video. You could take a moment just to write a short list of the things that you're grateful for. Today, I'm grateful for the fact that I get to do this work, for my courage to change my career, for my partner, for this summit, for the organisers of it, for the opportunity to speak to you, for friends, for family, even though family is imperfect, for my desire, my heart's desire to have a dog, and the fact that I'm going to make it happen really soon. So there's a lot I feel grateful for. So if you would like to take a moment to do a gratitude list in this moment, pause the video or do it afterwards. So accepting the unacceptable. In one way, we have no choice. We have no choice. This is the path that we are on. This is the life that we are living. This is what we have been given. This is what has happened. This is what has maybe happened to us because of nothing that was our fault, because of things that happened, because of our bodies, because of our genes, because of our family of origin. This is where we are. We have no choice. We have no choice but to live this life. We also have a choice. We have a choice to accept what is, to accept the reality, or to live in the what if, or the what could have been. And I've spent quite a lot of time in the what if and the what could have been. And I can tell you from experience that it takes a lot of energy to be there. takes a lot of headspace. It takes us out of the present moment and the enjoyment of the present moment. It takes us to a fantasy world where dreams might come true that are no longer possible. It takes us away from our relationships. It takes us sometimes to a bitter place. So we have a choice to live in the what is, in the reality, or to spend a lot of time hankering after what if, what could have been. Again, it's not an easy choice. I don't say this lightly. I know because I have been through it. I go through it every day, in fact. I go through it every day with the smallest of things, with the smallest of decisions, with the smallest of choices around, we've just built a shed in the garden. Is it perfect? No. But I have a choice to live in the what could have been or to live in the what is, in the reality, and go from this point and move forwards. So that is the choice that we have. So accepting the unacceptable. Not easy, but acceptance brings peace. Acceptance brings us back to the here and now, takes us away from the realm of fantasy and what if, brings us into reality. It enables us to move forwards from where we are. What does it take to get to acceptance? I've talked about forgiveness. I've talked about anger, feeling the feelings, allowing them to come out, working through those stages of grief. I've talked about grieving the losses, crying, sitting still, allowing the feelings out. I've talked about trying to find an acceptance around the fact that this is my path, the benefits of the path that I am on, to myself, to the loved ones around me, and to the wider community and the wider world. And I've talked about gratitude, about being grateful for the things that we do have in our lives, so that we can live in the what is and let go of the what if. So that is my workshop on accepting the unacceptable. I hope that proved beneficial. I hope it worked for you. As I said at the beginning, take what you like and leave the rest. It won't be for everybody. So to finish, I am Katherine Baldwin. You can find me more about my work at howtofallinlove.co.uk. As I mentioned at the beginning, I have a book which is called How to Fall in Love, a 10-Step Journey to the Heart. That's available on Amazon. I run retreats down here in Dorset. I'll also be running an urban retreat in London. My next Dorset retreat is in May. And I run workshops online and in London and hopefully in other places going forwards. So yes, drop me an email, Katherine@katherinebaldwin.com, or go to howtofallinlove.co.uk and find out more about my work. And thanks for watching.